All right, guys, how we doing? Here we are midday. It's Tuesday, May 7th, and well, no huge surprise here. You guys are interested in what's happening with the S&P. So this is kind of good timing for this as we're approaching what's likely to be a significant pivot here. So this is, I think, pretty much where we left it off last time I did a video on it. So it looks like we've got a 1, 2. We have all of the ingredients for a 3 here. Now, what's going to be interesting here is that we're coming up to this proposed one wave pivot here. So if we overlap that, if we break that, then we have to reconsider because I have all of the subdivision here that I would need for an impulse. So if we break this, then you got to make a decision as to whether or not we've got a top here, or so if we break it, given the fact that I can get a clear impulse into that 3, well, you got to make a decision. Either you're going to try and turn this into an ABC, which I think is a mistake, or you're going to do this. You're going to move the larger degree 3 over here, the larger degree 5 over here, and potentially, that's not what I want, potentially the larger 5 up here. Now, of course, what's moving the market today is geopolitical issues, which can be, it's news driven, right? So one day they got a problem, next day they solve the problem, and the market could easily come down here, and a week later we're off to new highs. So it's not ideal for any direct trading, but it's not bad for option traders that are comfortable selling premium, even if you're doing put spreads or call spreads, because you have nobody knows, right? So the odds seem to be suggesting that there's too much to lose on both parties. So at some point they're going to get a deal, which should give the market reason to get a relief rally and this volatility to come out of the options. So if I were looking at a trade here, I might be doing something along the lines of selling some very out of the money call spreads, even doing a straddle. So I wouldn't do anything unhedged. So selling some out of the money puts, some out of the money calls, just taking advantage of the high volatility. If you're not familiar with that, never mind. So the trading here, I think the vol and the underlying issues that are creating this volatility are not ideal to be putting on fresh positions, either long or short. We have this potential invalidation of a count that is in play and that has all of the ingredients that you might look for. So you can see it from this pivot here. I get a clear impulse into this pivot here. Now I do have, so there's a little bit of a question mark. Is this enough for the 2? But I have this nice 3 here to give me the 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, so that's open to some reinterpretation should we break this pivot. But right now, so you'd look at that, right? So just standard ops, we'd grab the low here up to our 3 and say, all right, well, what are we bumping into? So we're about to tag the 50. Now, if this sell-off is going to get legs here and keep going, we're going to break this pivot. That's technically, that's not insignificant. So if you pull back out here to from our low here, well, so we after going through this is our low back here in December. Not necessarily calling for the top here, but you might have an interim top. So what that potentially could be setting up is that if this is the 4 here, we could just be putting in the 1 wave of a larger degree impulse, or one wave, right? So of a motive wave, I should say. So if that's the case, and we're going to get more legs on this sell-off, then if that's going to be our top, then we'd be looking, well, you can see right here. There's a nice big wall here of support. So here's your potential target zone. Let's get that back in blue here. So this would be what I'd be looking for on the idea that we're going to complete a motive wave here. In this case, looks like we'll complete an impulse off of this low. So, putting that all back in context, we have something that completed up here. Now, interestingly, so we've just tagged. So we've got, let's just go look how far we got through. Just barely enough to get through. So we have the potential here to be finishing. Sorry, guys. Damn it. But as we pick up steam here, looks to me like this is going to be the critical pivot. So from this 2, we're tagging the 50. Here's the 233. We've already broken the Vegas wave. Damn it, I need to get something to drink. All right, guys, so I wouldn't, other than if you're comfortable trading options. See, here's what's also making this difficult. So if we look, let me go down, let's go to hourly. Because of the big gap we have here, you got to kind of look at this, and it's a bit of a judgment call here. So you've got 2 possible scenarios here. The 5 down here is pretty clear, so that looks good as an A wave, but there's not a lot of subdivision here in the B. So one of the possibilities here that because it looks like we're now in an impulse. Well, if you're thinking WXY, so if I've got a completed ABC here, all right, and I'm going to go ABCX, well, first problem here is that this looks more like there's an impulse here. So it looks like I can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, let me get that degree to something that makes sense. So A, is that enough of a B, or are we going to end up playing the B like this? So we'd have A, B, and then a C to give us kind of an oddly shaped B, and now we're just going down to finish the C. So I think that's a function of how far this impulse goes, because we're still putting in fresh lows. So here we're coming up to the 50 as I'm recording this. So do we get a reaction there? Do we get any kind of a reaction there at all? Because we're working off of the proposed 2 pivot. Here, we can watch it in real time. So let me get back here. So here's our proposed 2 wave of this degree. So as we hit the 50, so you see we got a little low volume node here. So it wouldn't surprise me if we saw a little reaction here. Likely there's going to be some software kick in as we have a dominant pivot to a pivot high. So I mean, I've seen them just cut through it right like a knife. So you've got this momentum trade now, and you've got a lot of gains that people are likely starting to protect. So yeah, a new trade, well, shit, I can't suggest that you buy it there just because we're at a 50. But the way out of the money puts, with volatility spiking up in the 20s, pretty attractive. All right, so again, you're kind of making the assumption that the volatility is going to come out of the market once, assuming there's a trade deal, within the China deal gets put to bed and they get something that's workable, then you'd look for a contraction of all that volatility. So option premium sellers will be in a good position. But I would just be cautious here, because it's news driven, and that can change so quickly. So it is kind of interesting here how nicely this modified shift, so essentially a channel, framed the market here. And then note here so we had was this a gold? I don't think it was a gold. I think it was just a straight 50. So of this corner pocket here, all right, so here's the 50. Look at this, to the target, to the tick reaction. Now we get second target. We got a little legs to get through it, and now we're seeing the sell-off here. So we're getting a little bounce at the 50. No surprise here, but I wouldn't be sitting there looking to be a buyer just yet. So I'd be careful there, because we can't be certain as to where we are. We're going to have that odd-shaped ABC into an X, pardon me, and so the B wave could be over here, and then we'd eliminate the WXY. Just the gap is also kind of complicating things. But right now, this looks like, so if it was going to be a WXY, we'd be expecting a much deeper correction. So if this were A, B, C, we had the X, and now we're going to start, this impulse was going to be the A wave, we'd be looking for much lower prices. Right now, I'm not ready to go there yet, because all I see is I'm in an impulse here coming down. So I'd be cautious here about any fresh new trades on. Again, unless you're comfortable with options, I'd kind of be watching to see are we going to challenge that pivot. Well, shit, right now we're challenging the 50. Are we going to come down and challenge this pivot, and then we have to relabel all of this? All right, guys. So if I can give you a trade, I like to give you one, but I think it's a hurry up and wait here. All right, back to you.